If you could only use one body care product for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Tweezers.
4-in-1 body wash.
Lotion.
What is happening?
Man, I was very excited to do this podcast. That answer just went so many different directions. No, let's not get into that. But let's get into it.
Amber, your eyebrows bother you that much that you need...
No, I honestly
Tweezers your entire
thought
life?
body grooming, and you know what, Shamir, right before the podcast, you said that like your answers have not been that good, but I just wanted to give you props. That was a really, really good answer.
Dude, I locked it in. I was like, yes.
That was
4-in-1
so
body wash?
good.
Yeah.
So good.
Hair,
What's the
conditioner,
what-
body wash, and then it probably has like lotion in there too.
That's crazy.
I've never heard of 4-in-1. I thought it was always
Bro,
3-in-1.
you've heard of 4-in-1, bro.
I don't
No,
think it's.
3-in-1,
I
I
don't
know,
think it's
but-
lotion, but it's the body wash that has shampoo and conditioner.
But you also have like stood against that. You were like, that's
Oh
not
yeah,
a thing.
I'm against it, but like,
But you say it's a good product.
It's the best. If I only had one, right? It'd be the best.
Yeah.
I mean, soap would have
like a
made the
cheat
best
code.
like answer. I was thinking body grooming. Like, okay, fine. Like what do I like? I don't use hairbrushes. I don't use whatever.
Guys, nobody said deodorant.
Dude, the body wash, bro.
The body wash.
Yeah, I know, but like, what are you going to do the rest of the day?
Yeah, but are
Chapstick?
you
We're about to
gonna
have crusty lips.
Are you gonna shower with just water and then put deodorant on? Like that's not gonna smell good.
I think that would be fine.
No, that would
No,
not
dude.
be fine.
In middle school, those kids would spray Axe, and that didn't do anything. It
Oh,
just-
yeah, after the gym?
Yeah.
Bro, why did we have that? Like, going... having classes and dressing up and then going to gym in the middle of the day, getting sweaty, and then like putting on the same clothes.
It's
Like
gross.
That is
that couldn't
pretty
happen
gross.
now.
Yeah.
Actually, well, I said
mean, we
lotion because
do it
I
now.
like it. Actually, physically, like I can't handle when my skin is dry. Like it makes me just like, you know, when like you have like nails on the chalkboard. Like that's what I feel like when I like have dry hands or something. And so I was just like, I said lotion, but I thought of this because I was thinking of sunscreen, and like I was listening to
Sunscreen
this
is essential.
podcast. Apparently, because
It is for your skincare. Like it's like one of the best way to like do anti-aging and moisturize, all of that.
so I was listening to a podcast and they were saying that like sunscreen is supposed to be an everyday thing, but we only use it when we go to the beach and stuff. And she was saying that like it was the CEO of this company that she made it so that you could use sunscreen every day because people usually don't like the texture of it, but she made a formula that like works or whatever. And I was listening to it, I was like, this is stupid. And I was on my way to do a shoot in Baltimore, and I was outside all day, and I got sunburned.
Bro, you got sunburn?
On my-
I've
yeah.
never heard of a brown person getting
Look,
sunburned
right
before.
here. Actually, I got it for the first time in California when we went 2 years ago.
Good,
And-
because I know you guys are the type like, oh, I don't wear sunscreen.
I
like-
never wear sunscreen. I've never worn it my whole life, and I didn't wear it on that trip either. But it was just funny that like I was out for maybe like 3-4 hours, but apparently it was really hot. I didn't really feel it, but it was almost 90 degrees, right? Like this.
It's not
past week.
temperature.
Yeah,
it's
it's not
like the
temperature.
sun's
Oh, it's the sun.
rays, like
Right.
direction. It's
But
like,
on the way home, like I was looking in the mirror and I saw that my nose was red. And then by the time I got home, I was touching it, and I really like sunburn because I never get it, and it feels really good. And white people take it for privilege.
What?
Just kidding. But no, it feels good. Like when it starts peeling and stuff.
can we like slap you next time you get it, like on the
Yeah.
area? Okay.
I mean, I like it, so
You like it?
it's cool.
He likes pain.
All right.
I remember my
on.
white kids used to, not my white kids, my white friends used to, like when I used to go to school with them, they would always like show off about it. I think it might be a guy thing because they'd be like peeling and stuff. They're like, look at my sunburn.
Oh,
And, like, people
I
would, like,
look
touch it
at
and stuff.
sunburn as like a sign of weakness. Like, oh, your skin couldn't handle that. Oh, okay.
True. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning into an episode of Strange Flavors. My name is Shimmer,
I'm weak. I'm for us.
I'm Amber.
and this is brought to you by Alif Theory. You can email us, or guys, I wanted to ask, who can send their music?
Anybody but your cousin.
Anybody? but
Honestly,
your cousin.
I'm gonna advocate for the cousin this podcast.
Episode you're advocating for that.
Listen. You know, I have a thing on the cousin, right?
What?
Like, did you see that meme of that kid that was recording in his bedroom with the
yeah.
cell phone hanging upside down and he had the headphones on?
Yeah.
And Kenny Beats, the producer, was like, I'm gonna hook this kid up, right?
Which he did.
Because like he needs proper software and
yeah.
full studio and stuff because he's trying to chase his dreams. Awesome, amazing story. But then I go on the kid's like Instagram, and guess who he's promoting?
Who? The
Come on.
cousin?
His cousins. The cousins are clout chasing, and he's like, follow my cousin blank, follow my cousin blank.
Yeah, but sometimes they say cousin like as, oh, this is more than my friend, it's my cousin.
Okay.
No, but his cousins are probably like, yo, you got the clout, man, like put us on, and he's probably
because he's a
pressured.
little kid, I get it. They're probably like, yo, we can help you out and stuff. But I don't trust the cousins.
Yeah, cousins are very nasty. They like take it.
That's why I've been saying. There's great cousins. You know, some of your cousins, they're like, you know, you grow up with them. They're like, they're the ride or dies, and they would like back you up in a fight and everything. But some cousins, you know who you are.
Yeah, but if you're a cousin,
That was so aggressive for no reason.
but if,
No,
you know,
it's real.
all of us are cousins, you know, and we have some, you know, catalog there. So like, if you want to try out, right? If you want to try out to maybe try your music and have it on this podcast, you can at strangeflavorspodcast@gmail.com.
Don't be clout chasing.
Don't be clout chasing. But
It can be your brother and sister in Islam, though.
yeah, and you can clout chase and say you listen to this great podcast by telling them that, yo, Strange Flavors, the strangest and greatest podcast in the game, is in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere you listen. We're also on YouTube. You can see our beautiful faces. Unfortunately, I don't have an amazing background today because
So sad.
yeah,
Why?
I'm maturing, guys. I'm boring and normal now, just like you guys. Just like you guys.
I like the old Shimmer.
It's like I just didn't have time to think of one because I have to, you know, you have to put in time for these amazing backgrounds, and I don't just wait. You know,
You want it to matter every time.
I want it to matter every time, and unfortunately, it doesn't matter this episode. Yes, and if you want to follow us on all social media, you can. We're on Facebook, IG, Twitter at Strange Flavors, and if you want to be an executive producer, just like our executive producer Bobber Bagel, you can support us and support this podcast. Link down below for a monthly donation to support the podcast for future
Shout out
episodes.
Bobber Bagel.
Shout out Bobber Bagel.
Bobber Bagel.
And because he is our executive producer, he gets an authoritative
He gets the privilege.
There you go. That's the word. Thank you, co-host Amber. He gets the privilege of having his email and words put to the top above everyone
There we go.
else.
He gets
Yeah.
the first question. Let's hear it.
So he said some nice words. He was like, yo, I love Ronopono. I love Strange Flavors. I
Why
love
is that
listening."
voice his?
This is like my...
That's
I
his
put
excited.
It's my excited.
okay,
like, you
okay,
know,
okay, go ahead, keep
It's
going.
not his voice. I'm sure he has a sexier voice, but...
I'm sure it's deep. Bobber
I'm-
Bagel sounds like he might have
Yeah.
a deep voice. Like,
Yeah,
yo, what's
for
up, guys?
sure.
You need
I mean,
production?
not that deep, but like a
No,
cool
it's
chill.
deep. Probably deeper, actually. He's probably
Well-
like, yo, let me give you 99 cents for
Welcome
your
to Bobber's
podcast.
Bagels.
Plus another
Welcome to
one.
Bobber's Bagels.
That's just-
Bobber's.
Yo, read my email, yo. I'm an executive producer.
So he had a question for us, and I hope we can answer it. He said, what kind of hobbies / activities have you discovered or rediscovered since quarantine? I, for example, pulled my ancient Bionicle Legos from middle school out of the shed and started making my own after years of inactivity. He makes bagels and Bionicles.
That's crazy.
Wow. Man of many talents.
Wait, isn't Bionicle like a separate thing than Legos?
Yeah, I think he said like Legos to like dumb it down for the people that
Oh,
don't know. Yeah.
they're in parentheses.
They're in parentheses. So I think he dumbed it down for the people that don't know. But if you're uncultured, you don't know what Bionicles are. So
I had a Bionicle one time, and
When you said Bionicle, I thought of binoculars, but keep going.
this is why he uses parentheses
Right, and
for
I
the Ambers
appreciated
of the
it.
world. And I think it was like the action figures that you like assemble, right?
yeah.
And that's when I realized that like I don't like toys.
Yeah.
Like Legos and like all that type of stuff. I was
Yeah.
never into toys.
What were
The
you
question
into?
here for us is, what have you discovered from quarantine?
Yeah.
Not whether or not
We
you
were
like
about to go in
Legos or
somewhere
not.
else.
Well, I was just addressing the Bionicle part of this.
True.
What have we discovered? I think I started well, I picked up on a lot of reading because I had a lot of books that I really needed to catch up on. So that was awesome, making time for that. It was awesome that like Ramadan came in the way. So then I got to like, read up and learn more about, my own faith. And then just aside from like just all the projects that we do, I never really watch Netflix. Like everyone's usually into these series and stuff, but I decided to like watch something small every day. I don't like the ones that are like an hour long. Like I started watching Black Mirror, and then it was like, oh my god, every episode is like a movie, which like some of them were good, but I like things like when I was watching The Office, because it was like little 30-40 minute episodes that like I can watch. Oh, I only have time for one today, or I can watch up to 3 today. And like Avatar The Last Airbender, like that's what I've been watching, because it's only 20-minute episodes, so it's awesome, because I'm like, right before I go to sleep, either I can like watch an episode, or if I have some time I can watch like 4. So just wasting time.
Yeah, I mean, I would add on to that. Like, I would watch like big shows, like whatever's popular. It had to be like the main show. Like, if shows like that got popular, like Tiger King, like I would immediately watch in and out of quarantine. But like during quarantine, I'm like, okay, there's so many shows that I have to like catch up on.
Bro, it's been that long.
What?
I thought Tiger King happened like a year ago.
Yeah, it was forever ago. But like, during quarantine, I guess like I prioritized like actually watching shows. And like different types of shows, like cartoons. I started watching like Rick and Morty, like to figure out what the Szechuan sauce is about.
They're not releasing movies on the same level.
Yeah,
like out in theaters and stuff. So people
like,
are picking up shows
and like catching up on shows, new shows that came out. Ramy season 2, shout out. So,
but blam! I want to say real quick about Ramy season 2. So I realized that the show, like, there's a similar formula with Ramy and the show Dave and Atlanta, and they're all on FX too. I don't know if that has to do with it, but think about this: all 3 of those shows have somebody like Donald Glover or Dave, aka Little Dicky,
That's
or
how you pronounce
Ramy
his
Youssef.
last name?
What?
Glover, or I thought it was Glover, but
I thought it was Glover too.
What did I say?
Glover. That's a weird ass.
Guys, listen, it's the same thing to me.
No,
I don't hear the difference.
It threw us off.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I was just like, wait, did I know it wrong my whole life? Keep going.
Anyways, it's like a very personal show about like something that has like with Donald Glover. Am I saying it right? Like it's about his industry that he's kind of experienced and growing up in Atlanta. And then Dave, it's literally the story of how Little Dicky came about. And then Ramy, telling the story of like a little bit about himself and then other like Muslim stories in that. But it's a formula that I really, really enjoy. And I liked all 3 of those shows so much because of how, and maybe it has to do with all 3 of them like write and direct in the show as well and are the lead characters. I'm not sure about Donald, but I know the other 2 definitely like have a big part of it.
I will
but they
say,
also,
like,
go ahead.
Like the Atlanta, which is like Donald Glover's show, and then like Ramy, even though they might be like main characters, their supporting characters are much stronger.
That's what I was gonna say. So like they all of them give their like the other characters their own time to shine. And that's what's so amazing about it, because it's like, oh, they're not just supporting characters, they also have their own trials and tribulations and like desires.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, like the supporting characters, a lot of them in Ramy and Atlanta, I feel like they're much better than the main character, like a lot of the times. But in Dave, like Dave is my favorite character, but the supporting characters are still amazing too.
I like Taco. Taco's a good one. Yeah. But yeah, I mean it's an awesome formula that works.
Yeah.
Amber, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, so we had, remember, guys, let's just take it back a few podcasts ago. Remember we had this whole flower situation where somebody wrote in and...
My mortal enemy.
Shamir's biggest enemy. We had a pretty big discussion about this
This is a series situation. At this point. It started from way long ago.
February.
She addressed from February.
And then it happened again like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
And
then
now
she wrote back in again, and she wants to make a clarification. So she wants to
just remind the people what happened.
So what happened was I talked about a flower for Valentine's Day and how a girl wanted a flower and she never got a flower. She wrote in and basically said that, you shouldn't get flowers because, and if you do, they should be potted because it's not
environmentally friendly.
Environmentally friendly. Okay. So she wrote, and so we basically tore her to shreds about last
I was
podcast.
not part of that.
We just got frustrated, but we still love her. We still love you, Sakina. But she said, let me clarify. I understand that plants are biodegradable and they grow back after being clipped off. The point is that I would appreciate it more if someone gave me something to eat or non-perishable than clipped flowers. Also, it reduces carbon footprint because you're adding more oxygen to the environment, given that your carbon usage is the same. That is, however, my opinion, and I understand that Amber wants clipped flowers.
Oh, she
Got
wants
you.
the edible arrangements.
But here's the thing, okay? I don't like how you told me all the way at the end after giving all these like points of like why it's like better that way, but like, oh, Amber, it's still okay if you want to do that. Like, I'm just over here being biologically, economically friendly, okay?
Fair,
Like,
fair. Don't come at her neck. She's
Here-
right.
Here's what I'm gonna say. Sorry. She checkmated
Don't
me.
apologize.
She checkmated me. She won.
She did?
Right?
She did?
I have a problem with you two. Because y'all were like, what? Humans don't produce carbon footprint? Like,
No, after you said that they do, then I was like, okay, cool. Thank you for educating me, Mr. Damir. Mr.
well,
Wally.
I saw the judgment in your guys' eyes, so I assumed that you continued to judge me.
No, I believe
But-
you on things science-based.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so she actually checkmated me, and she was like, having the potted plant is like equalizing the amount of carbon that we release, right? Because
She hit you up and said this?
Well, she said right here, like it reduces the carbon footprint because adding
You're adding more oxygen to the environment.
Okay,
So-
but what does it do for your heart, Sakina? That's my
No,
question.
so my point is like it cancels out, right? So my logic was like, why it doesn't even matter how much you're cutting it off, like you're barely saving the earth. So she checkmated me there, and now it's personal preference.
But you know what? Everything I just said, I want to go ahead and take it back real quick because the next line is also, Amber, I love your hair and you maintain them so well. You are so sweet. Okay, so
Amber,
I
you
just-
are weak.
Okay, listen.
You are
listen,
weak.
Listen. Then she goes, I have a different question this time. If there's one place other than where you live or have lived before that would be your dream location to work, what would it be and why? Mine is somewhere in Europe, like Spain or Italy. I'm going to go ahead and say New York because I am in New York this week, and even though I'm not going outside, or LA.
So anywhere that you would want to work?
Yeah.
I mean, take me to like Bora Bora. Like
Bora
I'll work,
Bora.
You said
I'll work
that.
there because if I got the Wi-Fi, I'm
Right.
good to go. We mobile
Right.
on this side.
Yeah,
That's true.
that was good.
For me, it's I like LA is probably 1, New York's 2, Atlanta maybe 3.
Dang, I'll go back to Hawaii. Shoot.
For me, it's collaboration, meeting creative people. These areas are wonderful in those areas. So
She said that hers was somewhere in Europe, like Spain or Italy. But
You know,
thank you
New-
so much
New
for
York-
sending in that question, Sakina.
New York and LA can also be distracting.
facts, but I'm not a distracted person.
I'm over here right now being very not distracted. That's
Amber,
also
you
the whole-
definitely get distracted
Yeah.
easily though.
No, I get distracted very easily by my own personal life and environment.
Yeah.
And I pulled myself out
New
of
York.
it, and I'm like thriving here.
Frost,
What
do you think
mean?
you would get distracted?
Maybe. I don't know. I would like to say no, but sometimes it's hard for me to also say no. So if there's like, it would have to do with people, and like if they want to go and do something, and I don't know. That's always kind of tough for me. It's easy for me right now because I'm away from a lot of people, and usually people that want to do things and go somewhere, they want to do it in the city or whatever. And so I'm just like, sorry, like I'm really far, like, whatever. But if they're like, yo, come outside, let's go, let's do this, I'd be like, yikes. Let's hear it from a true New Yorker today.
Wow.
This is where I want to bring in the guest.
Transition.
Right.
On fire. and let's see how he works through all of that, and if he doesn't get distracted and stuff. The guest today we're very excited about. You're gonna get lots of inspiration from this person, so I want to intro him. The stranger today is the founder and creative director of a content production studio called Happy Monday. He's worked with the biggest celebrities and brands in the game and is only just getting started. He also has a platform called HYFN, which uplifts and amplifies stories of South Asian artists and creators. We're picking his brain about these projects and a whole lot more, so please welcome our stranger today, Atif Ateeq.
I had to come through with the lighting.
Yeah, last time I was talking to you, you had like the ring light on or the blue and red one or something. You're always prepared for this kind of stuff.
I am. I mean, this is part of my job. If I don't look good on camera, if I don't look good, on podcast, then I'm not doing my job right.
You're not doing it right. No, what's the stuff you've been doing recently with like the IG Live? Like you've been kind of tricking the system and
Hacking it.
You're able to like produce IG Live, which not even like the big people in the game are doing right now.
You know what? They're not doing it because it's mad annoying to actually do, and it's not really conducive to having an actual live that's set up that way unless you have multiple people, like you have a team helping you out. There's no way to really do that.
And what are
Instagram
these
Live. But
lives?
basically
can you
we
explain?
just so basically we're through some pieces of software you're able to live stream camera feeds into IG Live, but the big problem with that is you lose all the native functionality of Instagram. So you're not able to you're not able to pin anything, you're not able to comment, you're not able to take questions, you're not able to pull someone in for an interview. So those things are big drawbacks because that really helps the platform really facilitates.
The what's it called, the Versus channel, where they've been doing like those producer battles, and Swizz Beatz and Timbaland have been doing that. I feel like something like that where it's like strictly on IG Live. They need that type of a system because it's literally like, all right, guys, we have an hour limit. Everyone hop back in. And it's like that would never fly on any sort of professional,
And they have to like sync it together, and sometimes it's like always off. They're like, hey, you play it. All right, let's wait.
And people have been losing battles because of the quality. Like people were like, yo, Nelly's quality was whack, so he takes the L. It's like on a production level, I can't believe that like, IG Live or at least the people that are facilitating it wouldn't hop on that level. And here's Atif like, yo, I'm just going to chat with this person one-on-one, and it's going to be this full-on production. Now, it's dope to see, though. It's awesome that you're able to do that.
I really like to kind of just, when a platform gives you limitations, to see if you can push through those limitations and what you can actually accomplish and still remain within, the confines of whatever they've created. So it was fun to play around with that, but it's not really practical. Just yet. Instagram doesn't let you do Instagram doesn't allow for it to be practical just yet.
But the fact that you can figure it out when you are able to, you'll be able to figure it out first.
Honestly, I
it's
feel
not
like
that hard.
the dumbness of the IG Live platform gives it the shine.
Exactly. That's on social media especially, we talk a lot about walking this line of being elevated and then raw and real, and often we have these conversations with big clients where we'll suggest that maybe we should just shoot this on our phones and not even use DSLRs or cinema cameras, because it gives more of that authentic intimate connection feel that you have when you have your when you have your phone in your hand. This connection is hard to replicate when you're doing it with the DSLR. It feels more intimate. It feels like I'm there with the person. Yeah,
I think you and I were talking about this actually recently, where we were saying how like some people, they have such a a visual idea on something like TikTok, where they haven't explored software or anything yet, but they're still being able to execute so properly on these little cell phone softwares. And it's like sometimes that's good enough, and you don't have to. And I look at it like sometimes I need to replicate how to do something on TikTok on like Premiere, which is always weird because it's so much harder to do it on like Premiere or After Effects than it is on TikTok.
Well, recently I was like, how do I get these stickers that you can post on Instagram? Like when you swipe up, you could take a GIF and post it into your story. Yeah. So I was trying to do that in Premiere, and I was like, there's no easy way to do this. I Googled it, and the solution was to post the sticker onto a green screen in the app and then export it and then pull it into Premiere and take the green out. And I was like, this is such a bad, like someone has to come up with a solution for this.
Yeah, seriously.
That's insane.
So for people that don't know, before we dive into who you are and how you got here, you're the man behind Happy Monday. So why don't you start by telling us, first of all, what does Happy Monday do? What is Happy Monday?
So Happy Monday, well, it's, for a very long time, I've been doing some sort of visual content creation since I was like 16. But around 4 years ago, we started a video production company, and that's how we thought about it in the beginning, that it was a video production company. And then quickly we realized that the opportunity is in social content. There weren't any agencies that were servicing social content for brands, because the way that it traditionally works is that brands hire agencies to execute campaigns or execute content for them on a long-term basis. But what that ends up being is that the brand is speaking to their audience in these spikes. Anytime they have something to sell, or they have a product drop, or something, they have something to announce, then they have this heavy messaging towards their audience. And that's a quick way to create an inauthentic relationship. Like, if you don't have this ongoing conversation with your audience always, and it won't feel real, it won't feel authentic. It'll just feel like they're speaking to you when they have something to sell. Like what Kanye
And that's how it
does,
seems
right?
that
Like,
you advertise it as well, is that sort of like really pushing for the social aspect,
Yeah.
the social media aspect of it.
Yeah, so we narrowed it down to creating social content for brands. So we sit between brands and their audiences to help them figure out how to create messaging in the most authentic way to their audiences. And we never know, there's no formula, there's no like template that we use to kind of execute this. We try to understand what the brand's needs are, the tone that they speak to their audience with, and what the message is. And then we package that message into a piece of content, whether it's a video, a photo, a GIF, a carousel, whatever it is. We figure that out based on what the message is and based on what the tone is.
Who are some of the sorry, who are some of the
go ahead.
biggest names and brands that you're proud to have worked with through Happy Monday?
So one of our biggest clients is Spotify. Before working with Spotify, we were heavily working in the fashion space, and we work with a lot of luxury fashion brands, and we work with IMG, who is the entity that puts on New York Fashion Week. So we created a lot of content for the NYFW Instagram account, and then working with a lot of fashion brands like Carolina Herrera, Boss, Oscar de la Renta, just across the board. And then this Spotify opportunity came because what we became really good at doing was creating content in real time and pushing that content out as the event was still happening. So we attached ourselves to big events like fashion shows, concerts, festivals, conferences, and told people that, or told them that we could create content and give it to you to post as the event was still happening. And people wouldn't believe us. People, the reaction I always get is like, I don't know about that. I don't know how you guys are going to do that. And then I'm like, just try it. Just try us out. We'll come through and show you how we do this. And we do. And to our clients, it feels like magic, because they're seeing things happening in front of them, and then within like 15 minutes, it's already on their Instagram page.
What does that look like from your end? Like, do you have just like content being passed to like one of the people on your team, and they're just editing and uploading it right there?
Yeah, so usually we have two shooters capturing the content. We have a producer that's running around making sure that the relationship with the client is being handled, and that content that the people are capturing is then ushered to an editor who's sitting on site editing for the vertical screen. And then that editor texts the piece of content to the client, and then the client says, hey, fix this or remove that, or this is good to go, I'm going to post it. So that's kind of the process.
Do you guys shoot in vertical too and horizontal?
No, we don't. That was a big debate that we had in the beginning about like, how should we approach this, because all of our content is ending up in the vertical frame. Should we shoot vertically as well? And after a lot of kind of back and forth debate, after taking a few months where we were like, we're just going to shoot vertical now, we ended up coming back to horizontal, because now the trend, if you've seen Quibi, the trend is that you should be able to produce both in the same time, right? Like, you should be able to shoot content that can be delivered vertically or horizontally. And then our clients also later we started noticing down the line, they wanted to have a YouTube presence. You can't have a vertical presence on YouTube. So, that because we shot it in horizontally, we were able to repackage that content for their YouTube channels as well. So when we're thinking about content, we think about like, how is it going to live across all social platforms, and how can we capture it so that it lives the best in each place. And part of the thinking there is like, what happens in the first 5-6 seconds of the video? Because trying to disrupt the feed, trying to get people to stop scrolling their thumb on Instagram is one thing. Having people search for something and find it on YouTube is a different thing. Facebook operates completely separately. So it's all just, we have to make sure that the content we create lives best for the platform that we're putting it on.
Yeah. You were experimenting with we were talking about live. You were talking about like live experimentation like earlier. Is that something you guys are planning on doing for the future?
Well, so the reason why we started doing live was because 3 months ago, when COVID hit, our entire calendar cleared up. Like all the jobs we had lined up either got pushed to next year or got canceled. So we found ourselves in the situation where we had no work, but we had a really great 2019. So we had just scaled up. We moved into a bigger office. We hired more people. We scaled up our equipment. So in March we were a little shook because we didn't have any work, and we had to think about ways to pivot. And live stream is clearly the social media pandemic MVP, right? Like it was something that lived on social platforms for so long, but it has just been validated. And brands didn't know how to use live. And they because of this pandemic, they were able to experiment with it and able to figure out how they would activate live. So now I think we're going to see a lot more lives as part of everything. Like if the Oscars are happening, there's going to be a live component to it. There's always going to be a live attach, or it'll be smart to attach a live activation to anything you do moving forward because people are bought into it now.
Are you thinking about going forward after the COVID-19 situation happened? Are you thinking about how you're going to adapt your business in the future if you're not able to move mobily?
What do you mean? Oh, to travel?
Yeah, to travel, to make it to these events and stuff like that. Like, does your business survive if COVID-19 happens for a year or two and everybody's locked inside?
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting question, and that we pose to ourselves as well. I think the answer really lies within are brands ever going to stop talking to audiences? And the answer is no. They're always going to talk to their people. They're always going to want to sell, always going to want to promote, and have a relationship with their consumer. And
so those same brands, are they still contacting you now to still push out content from previously shot stuff? Are those previous clients coming in handy now?
Yeah, absolutely, because they are just as lost as we are, right? They're coming to us and being like, what should we do now that we're in this situation, now that we can't have productions? What are some alternatives? So us scaling up our live program came out of that. And then we scaled up on creating Instagram filters, which is another way that brands communicate with on their social channels, and it promotes user-generated content. It's such a great way for them to activate. And then we did a lot of remote productions, so sending out briefs to talent, treatments that laid out what we need from them, what we need them to shoot. So they would shoot the content and then send it back to us. We would edit it, package it, and then give it to the client to push out. But we would give them best practices. We would tell them how to do everything. But so yeah, I mean, does our business survive if COVID lasts? I think that's a question of our team. Is our team agile enough? Are we smart enough to survive? Are we do we care about what we're doing enough to continue to pivot and meet the needs of the market?
I certainly see you trying, despite everybody else being all right, I'm doomed, or
Call of Duty.
Let's waste a ton of time. You're okay, this is what's happening right now, and I'm gonna try this today. And who wants to join me for this? So it's nice to at least.
Bro, I got checks to write. I got people that work with us now, and I care about everyone and their well-being. And we haven't laid anyone off. That was a core part of our team, and that was a conscious decision because we were we're going to survive this. If we start laying people off, then we die.
Yeah.
And what about on a personal level? You had mentioned on your website and stuff that this type of stuff does take a toll on you. Has COVID kind of provided you somewhat, even though it stresses you out in the business sense, is it helping you out in the personal sense at all?
It's a mix. It's a mix. I say that I keep swinging between loving this and completely losing it. our lives were really fast paced right before this. Like I rarely had time to kind of slow down and really think about what we're doing or look at big picture or do big picture thinking or whatever it is. But it's been really nice to just slow down, just to like take a step back, just to see everything from this bird's eye view and understand how we have to kind of maneuver things to move forward. So I've been really loving the pace at which I'm moving right now, but there's a lot of anxiety attached to that too because of the uncertainty. If I knew that, if I knew September is going to be like is Gucci, like I would be way more relaxed. But there's a part of me that's always just like, what is September going to look like?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about that. I want to take our conversation towards that gear of like, you're in this spot where people count on you and there's checks to write and all of that. But how did you get here? So take us back to, first of all, starting with like your background and your upbringing. Who is Atif and how did he start on this journey?
Okay. Yeah. I think, if I trace it back, the beginning of my career started in high school. I took a photography class as an elective, just on a whim, and completely fell in love with it. And at that time, I was an introvert, and it was hard for me to communicate with the world. And photography, like once I started doing it, photography allowed me to communicate with the world through images. And this is in 2000. This is years ago, guys. And at that point, digital photography, we didn't have cameras in our pockets. Like we were still shooting film. I was still working in the darkroom. And photography was a much slower, much more artistic medium, I guess. No, that's not the right word, but it was a much slower paced kind of skill. But it played into my personality because I was an introvert and I was spending a lot of time in the darkroom by myself creating images that I felt like was allowing me to speak to the world in a way that I didn't know how to. And then 9/11 happened, and at that time, things obviously got shook and our world kind of turned upside down. So my kind of form of therapy became photographing, and what I started to see in my community was so many things changing. Businesses closing down, uncles that I would see a day before with full beards, the next day clean shaven, like people disappearing straight up, and families putting up signs to asking for their fathers to come home that were like taken or deported or whatever. So I started photographing.
You grew up in New York, right?
I grew up in New York, in Coney Island. So I grew up like around Neptune Avenue. So it's a big Pakistani community there, and there's 2 masjids like in like a close radius. There's a bunch of Pakistani restaurants. So the community was alive there. And I saw a lot of change happening, so I started photographing that, and that ended up becoming an important project. I didn't realize that at the time because I was young and I didn't fully understand the scope of what was happening, but now that I look back at it, I have like hundreds of images from that era of portraits of South Asians and Muslims in America post 9/11, and I went everywhere from like into restaurants, barbershops. I stood in line at like JFK at the taxi area and just like photographed cab drivers one after another, like talking to them about what's going on.
What were the photographs showing? Like when you're taking these pictures, what was?
It was, I was really into portraiture at the time, and I wanted to tell the story through the various faces of the community. So it was portraits of people. It wasn't. So it was like that mixed with a documentary style kind of captures. So that project like won a lot of awards. It won like this crazy Scholastic Art and Writing Award that. The prize was like a scholarship and 10 grand, and like my photos were hanging in the Corcoran Gallery across from the White House. They flew me and my mom down for this big ceremony, and my mom was like, "What the fuck's going on? So this is what you're doing," and all these things kind of in terms of I get asked a lot like, "What do my parents think about this?" and or how did I convince my parents that I should go down this creative route, and. It's these are the reasons. Like I didn't have to convince them; they were already convinced based on what I was doing. I had so many, like I had put in the work, and I had these accomplishments under my belt that it didn't make sense for me to do anything else. You know what I mean? So I then applied to NYU because I wanted to go to a university and not just like a art school, which I felt like would be too narrow-minded for me. Like I wanted to be around different types of people and be able to take other classes. So I went, I studied photography there for like 4 years, and by the time I graduated, film photography was done. The first digital prosumer camera had come out. Like everything I had learned was just gone. So I was really bitter for a long time, bro. Like I was like, damn, I spent all this money, 4 years studying all this shit, and now everyone can just do it. And I was bummed out about that. But I pivoted, right? Like even in that moment, I was just like, okay, so I'm seeing that it's going to become harder to become a successful photographer. So how can I take my skill set and do something with it still? So I became a photo editor. So I photo edited for a magazine for a little bit. I took several photo editing classes while I was in school. And then I got this opportunity in Jordan. The Israeli-Lebanon war broke out, and my boy was there working at this magazine. He was in Jordan. He was working at this magazine called Knox, which was it was like a GQ Maxim for the Middle East. So it was like, controversial a little bit. But he was the photo editor there, and this war broke out, and he was like, I want to go shoot this war. Do you want to take my job as a photo editor here? I was like, I just graduated. I was still looking for a job. I took it. So for a year, I moved to Jordan, and I photo edited for a magazine there. And that was a really interesting experience. It took me out of the U.S. for a whole year for the first time, and it put me in the Middle East, someplace I hadn't been. I traveled to Beirut a bunch, and it was.
That didn't scare you, like.
I don't know. No, it didn't.
What's gonna happen? And I mean, on a personal level, and also just like career-wise, at all.
I think my mom was scared. I think I just felt like this was a super dope opportunity for me to kind of explore a different part of the world, be a photo editor of a magazine, which I would never be able to do in New York. Like that would take me years to even get to that point.
And then you can get that experience under your belt too to come back here with.
Right. And so, at that point I had produced a bunch of 12 different covers for the magazine, and I had a good body of work. And when I came back I came back because I just couldn't. It was too lonely. I didn't speak the language. A lot of the progressive youth moves out of there and goes to universities abroad. So I didn't have a community. And after a year, I just felt like I needed to be back with my tribe, with my people, and in a space where I could further my career. I felt like I was going to hit a roadblock there because of language, really.
So what were some of the other projects that you fell into before Happy Monday came about? What were you sort of experimenting with? So before I went to Jordan, I had started a clothing line with my boy called Vane, V-A-N-E. And that it was it was during that time when streetwear was really hot and was just popping off. So brands like Supreme and the Hundreds and 10 Deep, all these people were just on the rise. And we kind of just used that momentum that the industry had to kind of throw ourselves in there and see what would happen. And we created a line of T-shirts while we were still in college.
Was there any correlation between the photography that and the actual design of the clothes? Were you throwing anything on there, or did you mainly use your skill with photography to take the pictures of the clothes?
Yeah, I felt like I had completely shifted into now creating a brand. It became this exercise in creating a business and creating products to sell to people. It was nice because I had been working a lot in a digital medium, in the screen-based medium, where what you're creating is not tangible. So it's really nice to have these ideas that then you can create and then touch and feel and wear and see other people wear. Mm-hmm. And that's what was really exciting for me about that project. And it part of the reason why I came back from Jordan was because it started to pop off. We started to get recognized, and I was doing some of that work remotely.
But you had no background in clothing, so where were you getting all this experience? Did you have somebody helping you?
Nah, it was just we just kind of did it on a whim. There was no help. There was no resources like they are today, right? I think we were talking about this on the call, but now, if you want to ship a product out, there's so many services that will help you do that, right? You just fucking hit a button, a print comes, and you slap it on the thing. It's out. We had interns writing on package. There wasn't an ecosystem set up for us to be able to do that just yet, but we were doing it still. because it was possible, and it was a challenge, and I liked that challenge. Plus, it was a completely different space, and it was a very creative space, like downtown New York kids. Probably a contemporary show. Do you guys watch Betty on HBO? Have you seen that show?
No.
Okay, well, if you get a chance to watch Betty, it kind of like revolves around these characters that are very unique to downtown New York, and that was kind of the vibe of like the scene that I was in at the time.
So your environment was like hustlers and just trying to
yeah,
make
and
money
yeah,
and do different things.
And people that ended up popping off, like people like Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi was part of that movement, part of that scene. Theophilus London. So many people, like Mellow X, who's like Beyonce's producer now. All these people grew out of that scene, and I loved being around other people that were creative, that were doing shit, that were like-minded. Now, you guys have, such a great, a wide range of access to people that are creative and do shit. Before all this social media stuff popped off, it was hard to make connections with other creatives or to collaborate or to even find them. So being around, creating that brand allowed us to be in that space around those other creatives, and it was snowballing on its own because there was just demand for something like that. We ended up opening a store in the Lower East Side. We were selling in all over the world.
But I guess my question is, like, how do you adapt so well to all these things? Like, when you first started in photography and had that thing, now there's a whole shift in how we take pictures and how we put it out. Then you took a shift into design. Like, you didn't know anything about manufacturing and any of that type of stuff. How did you constantly go and just get to the next place? Like, were you just like quick on your feet? Like, what about you made that possible?
I think that if I had to nail down the quality that I have, it's being able to problem solve, because everything is, a solvable problem that was in front of me, and solving that problem was like this puzzle that I loved figuring out. So that is probably where that desire came from. And then later in life, when I went to grad school, that is, people ask me what I studied in grad school. I studied like interactive tech and new media, but at the core of it, I felt like I mastered in problem solving, because that's what we really did there. It was like, how do we execute this creative idea using technology, using the media, using the internet, whatever it was. So I still love that. This we were talking about it earlier, like this live stream. What I'm experimenting with live stream, it's out of this kind of desire to problem solve.
Yeah. So then where did Vane go, and then where did Happy Monday come into the picture?
Yeah, so Vane, we at the end of it, we had a store in the Lower East Side, and our overhead was pretty significant at that point, and the recession hit. And when the recession hit, because we weren't like a funded business, we were self-funding everything, and we were kind of just like, taking the money we made and kind of grew the business and whatnot. I really had to. I had been working on it for 6 years at that point, and still weren't at a point where we were super profitable. So I had to decide if I wanted to continue doing fashion or go back to what my roots were, which was storytelling, which was visuals. And I opted out of it because I got pushed into a non-creative role, because when you run a business, you're doing everything, you're doing as many things as you can to keep your overhead low. And I just decided I wanted to go back to grad school, and I applied to like one program in the entire world, got in, and then I pivoted my life. I like hit the reset button, and decided I wanted to do something else. Fashion wasn't doing it for me.
Is that when you started video?
I had been doing a lot of video with the brand. We were using video to document everything that we were doing. We were creating ads. We were doing everything, and that's where I really polished up my skill set. Grad school was more. I went to ITP at NYU, which is an interactive telecommunications program, and it's really about how to use technology creatively to tell stories, which. When I was there a few years back, it was a bit more primitive than it is now. Now it's, now we see it in our daily lives. Like, we have smart gadgets in our home that speak to us, that speak to all of our devices speak to each other. But at that point, the Internet of Things, which is smart devices that are connected to one another, that was a new idea, and that was just starting to pop off. So there was a lot. I was really interested in that, and the thing that I really loved learning there was user experience, and that allowed me to really have a lot of empathy with the user. And I translated that, what I learned there, into video. Because a lot of the times I feel like why videos fall flat or people aren't able to create successful videos is because they're not thinking of the person who's watching it. They're thinking of themselves, what they want to watch. But I constantly think about how is what I'm putting out being taken in by somebody else. So yeah, that was the thinking on it.
So then, when you came up with the Happy Monday idea, first of all, what does that name mean, and you know, where did you see that going to begin with?
So Happy Monday, I started it with Hume, my wife. It was because I was after grad school, I was doing video on my own, kind of a one-man band situation, and it started to grow.
Like weddings and stuff, or what?
No, I was doing weddings here and there, like for friends and whatnot. But like, there's a Hennessy event and they need a video of it. I would go there, I'd shoot it, I edit it, I'd give it to them. There's, I worked for Hugo Boss for a little bit, and they just little things, just social content.
How did they come to like, believe you were one person like doing this thing for these big brands? How did they trust you?
Because no one else was doing it. Like, there wasn't people running around. Like, now you go to an event, there's like, 20% of the guest list is photographers. But before, I was the only one that was shooting video. Because it was the Canon 20D had just come out. Professional video quality was a very new thing, like in a compact prosumer camera. Now it's like, everyone has a DSLR, but back then, brands were excited because this was a very new thing for them. They were used to paying like $50,000 for a video, and I could come in and do it for a fraction of that.
So then you had these companies believing you. Eventually you're like, okay, I need more hands on deck.
And then my brother, who was in med school, he dropped out. He started working with me.
Dropped med school to do this?
Yeah,
wow.
bro. It was
How did you convince
yeah.
him to do that?
What?
I
didn't convince him. He wasn't happy there. I think that his mental health wasn't doing so well going through that whole thing, and he made that decision. And I had, it aligned with where I was, where I needed more help. So once he dropped out, he just like.
And did he have those creative skills to kind of help you out?
He did, because he would assist me here and there throughout my career. When I needed an extra hand, he was always around, and he knew a lot about what I was doing. He was plugged in. So he was my first team member, and then Hume joined the team, and Hume became our lead producer, and at that point is when Happy Monday started, because we had an actual team, a business, a plan, and actual clients.
And what was the name about?
So Hume came up with the name because because of kind of an anti-Friday, anti-Happy Friday. Mm-hmm. Too many people in the corporate world greet each other starting on Wednesday with Happy Hump Day, Happy Friday Eve on Thursdays, Happy Friday. It just seems like everyone's just living for the weekend, whereas I feel excited about Mondays. Monday is I feel really excited.
It's like a fresh start.
I love. I think the hate on Mondays is unwarranted. We need to chill with hating on Mondays.
It's an awesome name. I think anybody, when they see it, immediately understand. Hey, that's the most optimistic way you could look at work ever. These people are probably excited to do my work. So how is it balancing the personal and business relationship with your wife? You guys are together all the time.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So So once we start working together, we've been together constantly. So, and we're very aware of that, and we're aware of the problems that can bring. So we actively take breaks from one another. She'll go visit her parents for a week, and I won't go with her, and that'll be time that we have for ourselves. I think it's important to create space for me time. And we have to actively do that in order for us to, have a productive relationship. But on the flip side, it's amazing. Like the fact that I get to do that with her and we get to travel together, I have somebody there that like is my partner, my homie. Like I wouldn't want to do that with anyone else. You know what I mean? So it's two sides to it. And in the beginning, it was difficult because I was so used to working by myself. Like I didn't have anyone to answer to. I didn't, if I didn't do something one day, I'm like, all right, I'll get to it tomorrow. But now she checks me. So I had to get used to that. I had to learn how to be a team player, and we've figured it out now. And now it's smooth. Like there are no issues, but that we had to work on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like when it works, it really works. And then also you have like a trust, reliability on one another. It's like, yo, this is the family money right here, so don't mess this up. Right. The trust thing is big. And my brother working with me was another added to that trust for me. And I got really comfortable with that. Whereas when I started bringing in other people, I was treating them like family too. And it works in a lot of situations because in a way our team is so small. I want it to feel like a family, but not everyone is family, and everyone needs to be kind of positioned differently.
What were the situations that taught you that?
I can blur the line between personal and professional with Hume or with my brother, but when I do it with other people, it sometimes sends the wrong message. It sometimes makes it too casual of a relationship or whatever it is, and I've had to draw lines, and I don't like doing that. If people take that the wrong way, and then I have to like put my foot down or something. I don't like that. I'm just so used to working with family, so I don't have to do that. Also with that, like you were mentioning this a little bit earlier, but on your site you described, not having a social life and not being able to see family as much, being homesick, and then
not even having the same friends you used to have.
And then people just online just seeing the highlights of your life, which we certainly do, because I see, oh my God, he's with Justin Bieber now, he's with Lil Nas X, and he's in Mexico and he's in Europe. So, with all that, are these sacrifices worth it to you at the end of the day, and how do you cope with that? What sacrifices? Well, sacrificing of the social life and the family and all the social life. He said, "What sacrifice?"
It's like I did that on purpose.
It's on your site. By the way, there's a typo on your on that blog. And listen. If anybody can screenshot it and send it to me before Atif corrects it, I'll send you something.
There we go.
I want something. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, but how do you cope with
sacrifices? So I think that at every point in my life, I've always questioned everything, and that came from like an early age where I was brought up a certain way, and then there came a point in my life where I had to question all the beliefs that I was taught and redefine them for myself based on my reality and based on what I believed. And that same process, like I implemented in other stages in my life as well. And when I went to grad school, I looked at my social circle and I was just like, who here is actually my friend? Versus who here is hanging out because I have a cool clothing line or because they need photos or whatever the case may be. I kind of hit the reset button on my social circle, and then I saw the filtering of people that were just kind of peripherally around me versus people that were my core group. And what I believe about my core group of friends is that they will understand me pursuing my goals, even if it sacrifices time with them, because when I come back, it'll be like we never even had that separation. And those are the people that I want to be around. And the sacrifice was always temporary. The goal wasn't to always live this life, right? The goal was to build this and sacrifice all these things and then come back to a place where I feel community again.
Mm-hmm. Were there people that were like annoyed that like you couldn't spend time with them, or like why are you going out? Yeah, I've definitely had to defriend people in real life because they wouldn't understand this, and I felt like that was selfish of them. And I even after explaining to them what it means for me to prioritize my work over
time with them. If they didn't understand that, then I didn't consider them a close friend anymore.
Honestly, the best friendships are when you can meet back up and act like no time happened. That's a timeless friendship.
100%, like that. So yeah, and then the sacrificing of the family time is hard. That is something that's difficult for me. It's difficult for my family as well. Like my parents don't see me that often, and now this COVID situation, I haven't seen them that much either. So that is something that I'm actively working on, kind of fixing and creating more space for. But yeah.
I wanted to
it's
know,
a give and take.
I'm sorry. What about self-care? Like, how do you indulge in self-care? Like, what's your thing that you get to do for yourself?
Self-care is hard when you're traveling, because, in the beginning, it was like, I don't know when I'm going to get back, I don't know when I'm going to get to come back to Paris, so I'm just going to live it up here. I'm just going to, throw out my self-care regimen and then the same thing would happen like the next week and the next week. And before I knew it, I was just traveling so much. And I had now gotten into this groove of like thinking that everything was, treating it like a vacation, because your brain is so used to thinking that when you get on a plane and you get somewhere, you're supposed to, and it's like this new city, you're supposed to explore it, you're supposed to go eat, you're supposed to go check, and I fell into that a lot in the beginning, and self-care went out the window. But no, I don't think I've figured that out yet. I don't think that there is a solid self-care routine that I have that helps me, but yeah, I don't. There's no self-care, bro. I'm just living.
Hey, be honest.
It's
Yeah,
true.
I wanted to ask you about, working with some of those high-profile celebrities, if it's a Billie Eilish or a Bad Bunny, Deepika, whoever it might be. Is there like precaution you have to take, or any specific way that you have to be around them, like considering if you're crossing any lines or their people are telling you to be a certain way?
Yeah, I think there's tons of sensitivities about celebrities, and every time we get hired, it's a conversation about how that relationship is going to be, and how our presence is going to be kind of designed in that space, because there's certain projects where the celebrity or the talent is bought into the idea and is super excited about it and wants to be there and wants to contribute and creatively collaborate and put their voice in what's happening, right? And then there's some jobs where it's just a check for them, or it's just something that they have to do because of a contract, or whatever. And those two shoots go very differently. Like, one is more fun than the others, and I'm sure you can imagine which one. I think that part of the reason why Happy Monday is, we're put in front of this type of talent is because we know how to act in front of this talent. Like, we don't geek out, we don't cross lines, we don't get extra friendly with the talent if it's not warranted. I think that there's a certain etiquette that you have to have around talent and high-profile talent that's important to maintain.
Do you hold it in, or like do you actually feel, or are you like through it by now?
Yeah, I hold it in certain situations. There's certain situations where I don't even know who we're shooting, right? Like when we shot Billie Eilish, it was before she got famous. So I didn't even know who this was. I wasn't I wasn't like in tune with her kind of underground celebrity status or her influence. And then we shot her before her album came out, and I was like, who's a 17-year-old girl? Like, I don't even know what her music is. And then right after, literally right after that shoot, her album dropped, and she became a superstar. Mm-hmm. So I don't think I've been at a shoot yet where I've kind of geeked out on the inside, and I've kind of had trouble performing because I was just like starstruck or whatever it was.
I mean, you have a team, so you have different people, different personalities around you. How'd you have to communicate that thoroughly to your team?
Especially the younger ones.
Especially the younger ones.
Like, yeah. I mean, one time I failed to communicate it, and this guy, right, we were shooting on the red carpet, and Kim Kardashian was walking, and as she was walking out, like I saw he was standing next to me. I saw him leave, and I was like, where is he going? And then he chased after her to get a selfie with her. I was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I was like, my man, why would you do that? Like, that's not cool. So now. Yeah. Now there's strict guidelines. Like you don't, like no one on my team is talking to the talent unless unless me or Humay tell,
or
communicate
spoken
that.
To.
Or spoken to, yeah. Even if you're spoken to, I'm like, don't speak back. Just
I remember I think someone on your team was describing the situation where you guys were shooting Schoolboy Q at the golf range, and he was trying to shoot down one of your drone cameras. So were there any sort of like other funny or crazy stories that you experienced that you were like?
With these celebrities, you know, honestly, like our interactions with them are so limited because it's really just about like doing the job and then dipping. There's no room for us to kind of hang out and kind of have those experiences. There really hasn't been that much. Kind
were you nervous with Schoolboy?
Nah, because I wasn't really a Schoolboy fan. I didn't really know him that well.
No, I'm saying when he was trying to shoot down the drone camera.
Nah, I was telling him to shoot it down. I was like, that would be a dope shot. Like, try to hit the drone. I was like, I'll lose a $500 drone for this.
That's what's up. See, I do the same thing with my water shots, and then everyone's always yelling at me, Frost, you're going to kill your phone
that's
again.
also because you were out of a phone for
it's
like
also
a
hard to
month
communicate with you. And
but it's not like you have a replaceable phone.
Anything for the shot.
Truth, anything for the shot.
When you have the resources to replace those products.
We'll make it happen. It's all good.
I think one of the wildest things that happened was that we were at a fashion show, and there's this runway in the middle, and this is where the models were walking out of. If this is the runway, like they would walk out, do the loop back in this way. So I had a photographer standing here, right where the girls were coming out from, the models, sorry. And he was shooting them kind of profile shot of them walking out. And he had two lenses with him. He put one on the ground, and as he stepped forward to take a shot, he accidentally kicked his lens in the middle of the runway during the show. And that is a big, that is a big issue. He freaked out. Everyone in the audience was like, you could hear the gasp, and then a security guard ran and grabbed the lens and walked to the other side, and then the guy who kicked the lens ran out of the building and ran 5 blocks away because he was so nervous about what was going to happen to him. And then he called me I was like, where are you? I can't find you. He was like, I'm on 45th Street. I'm like, we're on 34th. Why are you on 45th right now? And he just ran. He was like, I didn't know what to do.
Are you? I'm guessing you're a scary, intimidating boss. Would you say so?
Not really. I don't think so. I think
made someone
that
run 5 blocks out of fear.
No, that was because we were at New York Fashion Week, and there were too many people that would there was security there that would
top
ban him forever.
And top brands.
Yeah, well, he would. I actually think he did the right thing because they could have taken his pass and just banned him, But he came back the next day. No one knew.
True.
That's awesome. I want to get into also, the current time and everything. Tell us about HYFN. What is that, and why did you start that?
So HYFN. HYFN is a brand that Humay and I started a few years back. It was actually started at the same time we were starting Happy Monday.
So it is hyphen? It doesn't stand for something?
It's hyphen. It's the hyphen, the punctuation mark.
Right.
So it's a play on that because when I first moved here, I was 10, 12 years old, and I was a Pakistani before that. And as soon as I got here, I became a Pakistani American, and that hyphen became a part of my identity. And that little punctuation mark lives with me now forever, whether I like it or not.
I have one in my name.
That's so
actually.
deep.
I see it. So you have 2 of them then.
Yeah, I guess.
Snap.
Well, you probably have many, but because it's also a multidisciplinary thing, like DJ, photographer, producer, whatever. You in the middle of that, all these things you can bring together with one punctuation mark, and that was kind of the idea of bridging our identities, and it was a platform for us to tell stories of South Asian creatives that were doing incredible things. Right now, there's so many resources that give us a look into that experience and that narrative, But 5 years ago that didn't exist. Creatives didn't have a platform to kind of push their content. Now there's Brown Girl Mag. There's so many different entities that are now pushing the culture forward. But before there wasn't many, and I had this deep desire to kind of contribute in some way. And I'm not good at a lot of other things. I'm not good at many things aside from like telling stories. And that's what I wanted to contribute. So we went to these artists, and it was also kind of this desire to get to know people in a true collaborative way. Not like, yo, let's get on the phone and get to know one another, but like work with somebody and learn about them that way. Because that's, collaboration is my favorite form of friendship. So that's what we started doing. We collaborating with these people, and we basically said, hey, if you had a video production company available to you to do whatever, what would you do? Let's talk about that and let's make it happen. So that's what we did, with the Nikon and with Horsepower and with the Kominas and Talal Qureshi and Adil Umar from Pakistan and DJ Rekha, and now I have this incredible network and community of people that I didn't before, and I only have that because we did that project. And we had to shelf it because Happy Monday started to pop off, and I couldn't be distracted from that opportunity. And at the same time, many other things popped up, Kajal Mags, all these other things. I was like, great, this is beautiful that other people are doing it. We can kind of step away from it. And yeah, so that's what that was. And now we brought it back now, or we're bringing it back. We actually just, we announced it right before the George Floyd incident, and then after that, it didn't make sense for us to roll out in the same way that we were gonna. So
well, that's what I actually wanted to ask you about. With there's obviously the biggest civil rights movement going on currently. As a South Asian American, what are you taking from this movement and watching the Black community since you've been here for the longest time, and applying to yourself and your own community in the way that you're gonna move going forward?
What am I learning from this movement?
Yeah, and just watching the Black community throughout, your life here.
The Black community is what I identified with as soon as I came here, because they, that community also, I felt like with a lot of my struggles were aligned with theirs. And the high school that I was in was split between like Black kids and then Russian kids, and they all spoke Russian and I didn't, so I naturally kind of went towards, that community. And also I fell in love with hip hop as soon as I got here. I was amazed by, the 90s hip hop scene. More Money, More Problems had just dropped when I got into this country. It was one of the first music videos I saw over here, and I was really impressed with it and vibed with it. So I aligned with, I found myself being a part of that community for a long time, until I went to college. And then when you go to art school, I then, again, was just surrounded, or not again, but I was surrounded by a completely different group of people, white kids that were going to art school at NYU. I mean, you could just imagine what that type of person is, right? Obviously, it's the blanket statement, but there was a lot of privilege there. And at that time, we didn't talk about white privilege. That wasn't really a thing. But I continued to tell my stories, even in school. I took a documentary photography class twice because I wanted to continue telling the story of Muslims and South Asians and all that. And now, with this movement, there's been a lot of push towards South Asians understanding their own racisms and looking inward. And I've been doing a lot of that as well. And, being part of these conversations, I'm realizing all these things that have been a part of my life that I've just kind of really didn't pay attention to that much. But more in my childhood, more when I was in Pakistan, a lot more things related to colorism. People being treated differently because of the color of their skin, even though they're part of the same race or part of the same community. And that is something that I didn't really think about as much because it wasn't directly affecting me, and I wasn't around a community that it was affecting too much. And now I'm seeing it a lot more. And then looking back at my childhood and seeing that my grandparents or my dadi would treat people differently because of the shade of their skin, and then, you know, and then realizing, having conversations of like, you know, casually throwing in like, you know, that if there's a rishta or something, not for me, but like whatever, that they talk about that person's skin color. Like that's the first thing that comes up. Like after, like, what does he do? Okay, so is he fair skinned or dark?
That's
like,
sometimes on the biodata.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. So
on
like,
Shadi.com, you have like a whole pulley from like very
Right.
light to very dark.
Yeah, and you know, I exactly, like no one objected to that, you know, a few years ago or whatever. We weren't thinking about colorism in that way. We didn't think about how fucked up it is and how it needs to be corrected within our own selves and our own communities. So there's learnings like that I'm paying attention to, like where I have let things kind of slide or blow over or not fully pay attention to them. I'm more trying to be more aware of that. And correcting myself if I find myself in that situation. But yeah, there's a lot of looking inwards right now.
Do you look at, you know, appropriation versus paying homage when it comes to either the way that South Asians will borrow from Black culture or that other people will borrow from South Asian culture?
You know, I have a really like unpopular view on cultural appropriation.
Please tell.
That other people take. Like, I think that cultural appropriation, you know, worrying about cultural appropriation is just distracting because it makes you look, you know, it makes you look at the culture that you came from and it distracts you from creating new culture, which is the zone that I'm in right now, is about creating new culture. And I'm not worried about if white girls are wearing bindis at festivals. I don't give a shit about that. Like, I think that's a crazy thing for us to spend our time talking about. Who cares? And it doesn't, you know, I understand the deep-rooted, you know, problems that exist with cultural appropriation, and people need to be credited for their work, and the money needs to go into the right hands and all that stuff.
Or respect that culture, at least, when
respect that culture, exactly. I think that all those things are important, but my personal kind of agenda is not super aligned with calling people out on cultural appropriation. I think that, you know, nothing is original. People borrow all the time. Beyonce doing something Indian is not offensive to me. You know, like I've been, you know, there's been Desi influences in hip hop that I've championed, not looked at and be like, yo, they're taken from our culture, but like, you know, being excited about it. So I don't know. I'm not really too concerned about cultural appropriation. But then appropriating other people's culture. So I guess we see it in hip hop the most, right? Like, or maybe for me, I see that the most around me. And I don't know. This is it's a hard conversation to have, or a hard question to answer. Like, should brown people be able to rap? I think yes. I think so. I don't think that there's anything wrong with rapping. I think that it's important to give. To acknowledge and align yourself with sincere, kind of taking a sincere approach to it, not being a vulture about it. You know what I mean? And that can happen even within your own cultures. Like, people can, you know, rip your own ideas off and appropriate them and make them your own, make them their own. And yeah, I think we have to be conscious about it, and we have to make sure that we're like, you know, respecting the process and where it's coming from. But creativity is messy like that. I think that intentions play a large role in this conversation, and intentions are often, you know, not intentions aren't always pure. But if you're coming from a pure place, you shouldn't see a problem with it.
I think that's an extremely fair, you know, viewpoint, and a lot of people would respect that, and it depends on where it's coming from. And, you know, somebody like yourself who has grown up and witnessed and, you know, seen all of that, and then is able to acknowledge and look back while continuing to, as you say, like, create culture, is a totally respectable way to do it. Whereas I think the problem people have on the surface is always just kind of like, oh, this person is doing this, they're profiting off of it, and they don't know anything about that culture, and they haven't shown the respect. And again, you don't know their intentions, you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know what kind of research they've done. So the way that you put it, I think is definitely fair.
When it comes to a personal level, what you said last, Atif, is important. That like when you are participating in things that might not be directly from your own culture, your intention should be pure, and you should also, like, if you're taking from that culture, you shouldn't have a bad viewpoint on them. Like, you should be appreciating that culture as well, not just taking the beauties
absolutely,
of it.
absolutely. And you know what? Like, I didn't know how much racism against black people existed within our own communities because I didn't grow up in the suburbs. Like, I didn't grow up around white people. Like, I grew up in Coney Island. It was brown and black kids that were a part of my community and my tribe. And even with my parents, they didn't come from a hateful place towards other minority groups because they were working with those same people. Like, my dad drove a cab his whole life, and his buddies that drove cabs with him were black, and I never heard him speaking ill about any of them ever. But then, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who grew up in the suburbs, and their family's point of view of black people was very different than mine. And I think that I just come from a different, culture a little bit, where I didn't grow up around this as much. Like, racism wasn't there. Homophobia was there, there was a lot of homophobia, but like there wasn't a lot of racism in my family growing up.
I know we've kept you here for a while. I do want to try to wrap up soon.
It's all good, bro. I'm good.
Tell us about what you're thinking, if you're thinking of ever slowing down, and what you're kind of seeing in the future, and what you're looking forward to.
I don't know, man. I don't want to slow down. I don't feel like it at all. I feel like I don't have enough time to do as much as I want to do. I feel like I have an Evernote notebook that's called Great Ideas, and it's just a long ass list of things that I want to get to, like,
Great
and I'm
ideas.
not. Yeah, straight up, because they are great. Like, if I often go back to them, like, damn, this is a great idea.
Do you ever cross anything off, like, maybe that one wasn't that good?
Yeah, I do. I definitely, like, get real excited about an idea, and I'm, like, writing it down. Later, I revisit it, and I'm like, what was I thinking? That was good.
Awesome.
But yeah, I want to do a lot more. Like, I can't even think of stopping right now. Like, there's no end in sight.
I wanted to ask, like, what would you say to someone that wants to, like, pursue a creative field and something like that, just like inspiration and stuff?
I think that one of the things that people don't do is the work, and that I keep finding that over and over again, because social media has allowed you to kind of trick people into thinking that you're something that you're not. And I saw that firsthand when we were hiring people, and on the gram they looked popping. They looked ill. I was excited to meet with them, and then they come in and they were just popping on the gram. They couldn't even answer simple questions about art or creativity or about inspiration or about history, anything. I think that it's really important to do the work to educate yourself on whatever it is that you're pursuing. Like, you want to be a photographer, like, study photography. Go to galleries, go to museums. Like, one of the things that I kind of force all of my team members to do is go to a museum, like, every month. The way that a museum has influenced, or going to galleries, looking at art, absorbing other art, has influenced my work is incredible. Like, I couldn't even tell you how many times I was able to elevate an idea because I had some inspiration in the back of my head that I caught a while ago at some exhibit I was at. So I think doing the work is important. I think knowing the history is important. I think that understanding your craft is super important, and don't just live within an app. Like, you have to think outside of just one app.
Word.
That's great.
That would be the main thing.
Thank you so much.
Let people know where they can find you, and anything else that you might want to leave us with.
You can
before
find
the
me
AirPod leaves you.
I know, right? You can find me on Instagram at ATIF, at Atif.
How much you pay
Atif.
for that?
Yeah, like, how did you get that?
Yeah, I got friends in high places.
That's
You
an
and your
amazing
wife,
app.
just like, I'm just with first name, that's my handle.
Yo, fam, like when somebody I knew got a job at Instagram, I was like, okay, so this is my
Nice.
moment. I was like, I don't know how long she's gonna be there. Let's just try to make it happen. This was a little early on, so I gave her a list of like 4 accounts that I wanted, and if account is dormant for like 6 months, I think they can just give it to you. So at Atif, atifateeq.com, and then happymonday.studio.
Awesome.
That's where we live.
Thank you so much for
every-
coming on. You've really given us a lot of inspiration in this, and honestly,
No doubt.
hearing your journey and seeing how you kind of went from one rope straight to the other, and seeing how you can take your creative self from basic forms of photography to a whole company is very inspirational. So thank you so much for coming here and sharing that with us.
No doubt, of course.
Before
I
you
love it.
leave, we ask all of our guests one question.
Alright.
And Shamir, if you want to take that away, that'd be awesome.
If
Let's
you
go,
could
bro.
describe yourself in any flavor, what would it be and why?
Ooh, okay. All right.
You're on Strange Flavors.
This might
I know.
This might be on the list of great ideas.
Damn. Ice cream flavor, yeah?
Anything.
Any
flavor.
flavor. It doesn't have to be ice cream, but something that describes you and why.
Oh, man, this is a hard one. I should have came prepared. I should have known that you guys were going to ask me this. Damn, Hume would have a great answer for
See,
this.
I can't come and try to work for Happy Monday and say Mondays are my least favorite day. You're on Strange
You're
Flavors.
right. Yeah, you're right. Damn, you caught me, man. You caught me with this one.
What is a flavor that would describe who you are, like, you know? And you've dropped so many like deep quotes in this. Even when you said hyphen, I was like, dang, that's deep. Like, I know you have something in you.
I'm gonna go with those ice cream packs that are split in 3. Like it's strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate
Napoleon?
all in
Neapolitan.
one. Yeah.
Neapolitan.
No, it has it has a name apparently, and
Neapolitan.
so yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with because there's flavors. There's multiple flavors here, bro.
Hyphens.
Hyphens. There's multiple hyphens
Hyphens.
going on.
There you go.
Awesome. Atif, thank you again for coming on here.
Thank you.
We
Of course.
really appreciate
This
you.
was wonderful.
And you're a huge inspiration to us. So keep doing what you're doing because I think that you're inspiring tons of people with your work ethic and the way that you view things. So
No, man, I'm
just
thrilled
thank
to
you.
be on. Thank you so much for having me. Like I failed to mention this before, but like one of my biggest sources of inspiration is like the creative youth. And you guys, like I feed off of that. I love what you guys do. I watch everything. I just think it's incredible that there's a voice out there that's coming from this particular perspective, and it's inspiring other people. Like I think it's infectious what you guys are doing. It's dope.
That means the world.
Yeah. It means
Yeah, for sure.
We got the approval
That's it.
from ATIF, the only Instagram on handle on Instagram. So
Yeah.
thank you, and everybody listening. Thank you for listening to another episode of Strange Flavors. It's been another week.
another flavor.
A little less stranger.
We'll talk to you next time.